You know we can dissect a frog or a flower or a squid, but did you know we can dissect a question? Figuratively speaking, of course. You've seen them everywhere in science, social studies, math, and even language arts. They're how questions, and we're going to ask one more. How do I answer them? Whenever you see a how question, it's asking you about a process. What's a process? Oh, that's a definition question. I know because it starts with what is. Yeah, but what's a process? Oh, that's a good question. Let's look it up. So when you're answering a how question, you're going to want to describe a series of steps. And usually we'll need to explain the connections between these steps. Usually, it makes the most sense to explain the steps in order. You may want to go from beginning to the end like a story, or you might want to explain it like a detective working backwards from the clues at the end to the cause at the beginning. Either way, you will need to know the steps of the process. So if you're going to answer a how question, you might want to make a flow map to organize your thoughts on the process first. Sometimes a process doesn't go in one straight line though, so you may want to use a multi-flow map, especially if you're explaining complex causes and effects. For example, say we want to answer the question, explain how a fish's different organ systems work together to help it get nutrients and distribute them to all its cells. When I'm dissecting the question, first I notice that I have two parts. The fish's organ systems are working together, that's the cause, and the effect is that it gets nutrients and distributes them to its cells. So I'll start with these two boxes on my flow map. But then I notice that get nutrients and distribute them to cells is really two things. That's why the and is there. So I'm going to separate that one into two parts. Get nutrients and distribute nutrients to the cells. Now let's dissect organ systems work together. Well, what are some of the organ systems that you know? Bet you know these: the nervous system, the muscular system, skeletal system, digestive system, and circulatory system. So now we've dissected the question a little more. How do these systems help the fish get nutrients and distribute nutrients to its cells? Distribute. To carry around, to move around and spread out. Oh, the circulatory system is what distributes most things in the body. It distributes oxygen and carbon dioxide, and it carries everything around the body. So the circulatory system is what distributes the nutrients to the cells. I'll put that right here. And where does it get the nutrients? From the digestive system. So the blood gets the nutrients from the digestive system before it can distribute them to the cells. But what do the skeletal and muscular systems do? Well, I know that muscles pull on your bones and make you move. Does the fish have to move to get nutrients? I guess so. It has to move to eat, right? How else would it get to its food? So the muscular system pulls on the skeletal system, and that helps the food get its food so it can eat. Now, what about the nervous system? The nervous system includes your brain and your senses. Well, the fish has to find its food. It needs to see it or smell it and taste it. So the nervous system, its senses, are going to help it find the food that it's going to eat. So we have the nervous system as well as the skeletal and muscular systems are helping it get nutrients. And the digestive system and circulatory system are working together to distribute the nutrients to the cells. But right now we have two separate processes. The process to distribute nutrients and the process to get nutrients. How can we connect this in our flow map? Well, the first thing I notice is that getting nutrients is eating. When the fish eats, the food goes into its digestive system. So let's connect those two parts. Let's draw an arrow from get nutrients to digestive system. Now we have one complex process, but it's how the fish gets nutrients and distributes nutrients to its cells. Now we need to use our flow map to describe a series of steps and explain the connections between those steps. Let's try it out. In order to get nutrients, the fish must find and eat food. The fish uses its senses like sight and smell to find food. The senses are part of the fish's nervous system. The fish must also move to find food as well as to eat it. To move, the fish's muscles pull on its bones. That's how the skeletal and muscular systems work together to help the fish get food. When the fish eats, the food enters its digestive system. It goes from the mouth to the stomach to the intestines. The stomach and intestines break down the food into tiny nutrient particles. Now the nutrients are small enough to get out of the intestines and into the bloodstream. The blood and blood vessels are part of the circulatory system. The fish's heart pumps the blood around its body, and the nutrients are carried to all the fish's cells. We did it! We used our flow map to describe and explain the connections between the steps in this process. Now you try. Use this process to answer a how question. Explain how your computer, your hands, and your brain work together to make it possible to complete and turn in an assignment online. Step 1. Work with your table to make a flow map, a multi-flow map in Google Slides. One per table with everyone's names on it. Step 2. Use your flow map to explain the process to each other out loud.